Hello! So for the last half a year now, I've been making a whole bunch of Smiling Friends keychains, but recently after coming into possession of, I started wanting to produce mini charm versions of the keychains because the big guys don't seem to want to fit in these tiny little capsules. So the big plan for this project is to take the 4 first Smiling Friends keychains I made, aka Glep, Pim, Charlie and Alan, and make them small scale, Gashapon format charms, and load them into this bad boy. Now, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but my grand plan is to sell these in like blind box format on my store. We'll see how that works out. I've got big ideas, but I'm not sure if Shopify will let me do them. When I started making keychains, the first one I ever sculpted was actually Glep here, and the jumbo size version here you can still find on my store. So of course, when starting to produce this first wave of Smiling Friends Gashapon charms, I thought it was fitting to start with the Glep Meister here. Let's get on with creation.
So the first step of the project was to take my 3D Glep model and rework it for this much smaller scale. One thing I always try to be cautious of when I sculpt objects for FDM printing is to ensure the sturdiness of the model. So I make sure there are no sections that are too thin, especially areas facing upwards on the Z-axis, as 3D prints are most fragile along the layer lines. And I also find that with etched in details you have to sculpt in just a little extra to account for how much the FDM printing process smooths out detail. Thankfully, since I followed this practice with Glep, and because he's a rather simple model, there really weren't any alterations necessary, so we can head straight on over to the slicer. Now, to retain the same level of detail as my regular prints at Gashapon scale, we're going to have to use a 0.2 nozzle. At this point, I'd already swapped them out of the printer itself, so we just need to flick between them in the slicer. Aside from modifying a few things like print speed, as all the supports on my earlier test prints failed due to the supports printing too fast, I mostly left everything at stock values, though as usual, I use the fuzzy skin setting to get that flocked surface texture that masks layer lines beautifully, as well as a custom boolean modifier to let the program know what to leave unfuzzy. Then I just clone that model enough times to stuff the plate and fire this spit armada off to the printer. The printer I'm using for this particular print is my Bamboo A1 Mini. My only gripe with the A1 is that for what I make, 4 colors maximum is a little limiting, but thankfully Glep is a 4 color kinda guy. With all the Glepage ripped from the build plate, we can yank off all those pesky supports. After removal, support material tends to leave a lot of excess plastic junk all over the model, so we need to clean it up with an X-Acto knife. I should mention the X-Acto knife I use for this particular step is actually super dull, so it's more like a deburring tool than anything. To remove the scarring from the supports and cleanup, I give it a quick blast with a heat gun. Now comes what I would arguably consider the most important step, adding that eye juice. To gloss up Glep's eyes, I apply UV Gloss Clear Nail Gel to his little peepers and immediately hit it with a UV light to seal it in. To get a completely smooth finish, I usually do 2 layers per eye. Finally, we need to charmify him. Using a pair of pliers, I twist an eyelet screw into the tiny hole I sculpted into his hat. Then we take a loop strap and hook it around the eyelet. And just like that, we have a finished Glep charm.
Thanks so much for checking out the video, guys. Now remember to join me next time when we work on giving this guy the Gashapon makeover too. Until then, you can find all my current keychains available in the link below, and yeah, thanks so much for checking out the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!